Ready?
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah.
Sure?
Please.
Okay. Do you... We're
definitely making a blooper for this.
Welcome to another episode of Do You Really Know God? This episode we're going to talk about pride and some of man's egos.
I thought you were going to say the Pride and Prejudice.
No. So we're going to start off with Jeremiah 9:23. Thus says the Lord, let not the wise man boast of his wisdom. Let not the mighty man boast of his might. Let not the rich man boast of his riches. The reason why I'm picking this episode, well, many different reasons. A lot of our episodes lately has been because of the times, what's going on with the times.
Yeah.
Like we did around Christmas time, we did certain ones and we did themes and
yeah.
But everything going on in the world, we've been using that as somewhat of our inspiration of certain episodes.
Yeah.
This episode, the reason why I want to talk about pride is because right now there is way too much pride, and it's actually, pride is considered one of the most deadliest of sins.
Yeah.
Because people get pride so big where they always say, I did this, or I did that, or me, when really, you know what, you did nothing without God.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for God, you did nothing. And pride can be one of the biggest killers, and we all know that God does not like anybody to worship anything but Him.
Yeah.
He's the one and only God, and when you sit there and pride yourself over Him, you're basically putting yourself above Him.
Right, and we talked about pride a little bit when we did what was it, the 10 Commandments? Or
yes.
No, we did on the 7 Deadly Sins.
7 deadly sins.
But this is going to be like a more in depth of like, you know, what is pride and you know, the consequences of it.
Yeah, and we will talk like one of the stories in the Bible I want to talk about, and I know I'm going to say his name right, even though we practiced it 20 times before we started this podcast, because I'm not good with it.
Say it wrong.
I'm going to say it wrong. What did I say?
You said you were going to say it right.
Oh, I'm going to say it wrong. In the Bible, there's a big section in the Bible on King. Go ahead. Nebuchadnezzar.
I was waiting for it.
I know I was going to say it wrong. I can never say his name. But he is the ruler of Babylon. And it was a great nation that God helped him build. God built and he helped God build. Well, came to a point where David actually went up to him and told him, said, my king, you're straying away from the Bible, and you're straying away from God. And he did that quite often. He'd follow God really strong, then he'd stray away and he'd get prideful. And there was at one point in his rulings, towards the end of his rulings actually, he actually was walking through the castle and he said, I built this great castle. I built this great nation of Babylon. I ruled all these lands. And actually a voice came down from heaven and God said, be mindful of how you speak, because without me you build nothing. And he actually looked at God and said, it was my ruling that built this. And God said, well, you're basically being prideful and going above me. So I'm going to, for your words and your thoughts, I'm going to banish you. You are going to eat grass like the animals. You're going to live and have dew on your skin like the animals. And you're going to have claws like cats, I believe he said. And like a week later, he got banished from Babylon. And he actually had to live in a wilderness for 7 years like an animal. Eating grass, and his nails and hair, his hair grew like eagle's feathers, and his nails grew like what did his nails grow like? I think his nails grew like cat's claws, and he basically had to live out 7 years of punishment for going against God. So there's a lot of talk that pride is one of the most deadliest sins of all sins you can do.
Yeah.
As human beings, we like to say if we do something good and this, that, and the other, we like that little praise and a pat on the back.
Well, I think King Nebuchadnezzar is a pretty good example of Christians nowadays and what your journey can be like as a Christian. Because, yeah, you know, sometimes you're all gung-ho, you know, God and you don't sin and this and that, and then all of a sudden one thing can shake your faith.
Yeah.
And you're just like, wait a minute. And then you kind of doubt him a little bit. And then something comes by to reinstate your faith, and you're like, oh yeah, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. But one of the problems is, though, is with pride, is we tend to pride and boost ourselves too much because we want the recognition.
Yeah.
And God does speak. Any good act you do that you must tell others is not an act of faith or an act of kindness, but it's an act of ego boost.
Yeah.
So when you do something good, you're not supposed to be telling everybody and bragging about it, because now you're taking it from being an act of kindness and you're putting it more into an act of boost your own pride.
Right.
And that's one of the things why they say pride could be one of the most deadliest sins, because we tend to, if we have a great day, a lot of people said, yeah, you know what, I went out there, I sold 10 cars today, I was a great salesman today. Now guess what? As much as you want to admit it or not, don't want to admit it, you did not sell those 10 cars. Not by yourself.
No.
God was there on your side helping you.
Yeah.
Anything we do every given time of the day, God is there helping us.
Yeah.
It's not us doing it on our own. He says it right in the Bible. We talked about it last week, me and Michaela, is God says, take all your stresses, worries, and problems, give them to me, I will take care of it. And he also says in the Bible, take anything you do, I am there to help you through it. You are not there alone. So the problem is, it's anything we do, whether it's good or whatever, or how great it was, God was there helping us get through it. And God was fighting for us and giving us the tools we need to do what we need to do.
Yeah.
So we tend to be a little bit prideful because we always tend to say, I sold all those cars, or I did this, or I did that.
But on the reverse end, when you have a bad day, you never blame yourself. And that's one thing I can't stand about society nowadays, is nobody ever does anything wrong.
No. And that's where this is not biblical, but a great speaker that I admire most a lot is George Aleki. He does just stand up. It's funny because if you see him, he reminds you of a very tall Colonel Sanders. He does. And he comes out there on stage, and I'll never forget when I got there seeing him speak live. And he came out on stage, and everybody stands up and starts clapping and all this. And he's like, whoa, whoa. His first words was, sit down, don't be happy yet, because by the end of this speech, you may hate me. And everybody's like looking like, what are you talking about?
What do you mean?
And his first thing is he comes out on stage and he says, people have baggage. Everybody has two bags that they carry. Blame and excuse. If something goes wrong in your life, you either have somebody to blame for, or you have an excuse of why it happened.
Yeah.
And he says, stop the blame, stop the excuse, lose the baggage, look in the mirror, and there's your problem.
Yeah.
And that's powerful because it's true. We need to tend to look in the mirror, and there's our problem.
Well, like, and we've had a bad problem with this in the past with our technicians, but even just like in life in general, you know, everybody knows that person, and everybody knows that situation. Like when I say someone never takes credit for the bad things they do, everyone always instantly has one person that pops in the head.
Yeah.
And some even maybe a specific situation. But, you know, like some of our techs, there's been multiple times where a technician messed something up on a car, and then they said, oh, no, I didn't do that.
Yeah, that was my fault.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is it's never your fault. Everybody likes to blame others.
No one likes to admit that they messed up.
And yeah, it is hurtful. It's never pleasant to think that, you know what, I messed something up or something to that effect. But truth of the matter, we always do.
Yeah, and like, you know, like I was saying about the bad days. You know, some people even blame God only for what goes bad.
Yeah. Well, that's your problem because we tend to blame anything that goes bad. We blame God. Anything that goes good, we take credit for.
Like if I drive, you know, I'm driving down the street and then someone rear ends me and whatever, I get out and be like, oh God, why did you do this?
Yeah.
But if I go and I buy a scratch off ticket and I win the jackpot, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, I just won the jackpot.
Yep.
And you know, that's a trend in society that we need to stop.
We tend to, like you said, we blame when it's bad, but when it's good, we tend to take credit. And that's where pride is a bad thing. It comes in way too much, where we take too much credit. Everybody in life, you got where you got because of the help of God.
Yeah, nobody has anything, you know, without God.
Yeah, if it wasn't for God, none of us would be here. None of this would be here.
Yeah.
So when you have like a good success or, say a great day, or you need to stop saying, I did this. You need to stop and say, thank you, God, for helping me through this.
Yeah.
Because it's Him that makes us great.
Mm-hmm.
And pride is it's very deadly. Not even like just a biblical
That's
thing.
just spiritual.
It's also deadly in relationships. It's also deadly in everyday life because, like, relationships, if you sit there and in your household, say you're the man of the house and you always say, oh, I got us this house and I got us this car and I got us this and I got us that and I got us that. Eventually the wife's going to get sick of hearing it and she's going to be like, good, now go get your dinner and I'm out.
Yeah.
They're going to get sick of hearing I all the time. Because even in a relationship, it's not about I, it's we.
Yeah.
We did this. We built this. It's never an I. Business, you'll have the same thing. I see a lot of seen a lot of employees over the years. They hate the job so much, or they hate the boss because the boss is always like, oh, I built this business great, and I did this. Well, you know what? Without your employees, you did nothing. You need your employees to make you great.
Yeah.
So it's never an I. And I watched it actually at one job I worked with, and it was the owner was always about, oh, I built this powerful thing, and I did this, and all because of me that I made this money. I did it. No, because you know what? You're not a mechanic. So if you didn't have your employees, your mechanics to fix these cars, you'd be nothing.
Yeah. Well, I think I had a coach that said it best. I think he used to always say, "There's no I in team, but there's an I in failure."
Yes, and that's 100% right. And God is saying the same thing. Anything that happens to you, yeah, you had, like, if you're in business, yeah, you have your employees that helped you get there. So, yes, it's not I, it's we because of them, but it also comes back to it's we as in meaning God.
Yeah.
Because God not only helped you, He helped your employees help you. So He's in all aspects of the building of the business. He's in all aspects of our lives of building our relationships. We need to, as people, start noticing it and start accepting it and praising it.
Yeah.
I see it way too much these days, especially. I just see so much on just with the news and this, that, and the other. There's always like, oh, this. They'll say, oh, this person made such great strides today and did this. No, that person didn't. That person, God did, but it wasn't that person. And then that person gets the big head and acts like, yeah, I did all this, where without God, you did nothing.
Right.
We all know that God is a very forgiving God. But one thing He don't like is people trying to take His place. That's never a good thing to try and take God's place.
No. I guarantee you will fail.
Yeah, you will fail. You're not going to get mightier than him. I'm going to read another one. I've seen it a minute ago.
But the thing with pride and really just trying not to be prideful is another thing is accepting God. Because you can sit there and say, oh, God did this for me and God did that for me. But saying it and meaning it are two different things.
Yes.
There is prideful self-pride. As far as it is possible for you to go to church and say, oh yeah, thanks to God I was able to afford this new car, or I almost got in a wreck last week, but God saved me and all this and that. But if you don't truly believe it yourself and you're just saying it, so people will stop harping on you, or if you're saying it just because it's what you should say,
yeah,
that doesn't help you. Accepting God and really truly believing and knowing that it is Him, that's doing these things, then it is that's what matters.
I only want to read Proverbs 8:13. The fear of the Lord is hatred of evil. Pride and arrogance in the way of evil and perverted speech I hate. God, there is just, you pull up pride in the Bible on the app, on the Bible study app.
Yep.
There is just so many. I'm just scrolling through. There's got to be at least.
Is that a Bible study app? Yeah.
This is all stuff just on pride alone that's in the Bible. And we're talking these. I'm scrolling, I'm not even hitting bottom. There's got to be at least 75 to 100 verses.
Wow.
Just about pride alone.
And when we were in basic, we got these little Bibles. They're probably about this wide and this thick, but they weren't real Bibles. They were actually, like you said, study Bibles.
Where study guides.
The first like three or four pages was just list of words.
Yeah.
And then a list of verses under that about what would go on. So like, let's say if you wanted a verse about fear, you'd find the fear, and it would say, page, or this verse, page 3, this verse, page 8, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And that was pretty, I think I still have it. I always thought that was pretty cool.
Those are very helpful, because those give you like quick little verses, of certain stuff you're looking for. So that's definitely helpful.
And it's just like a small little book that I used to keep in my chest pocket in my uniform.
And I like this one, James 4:10. And this one we really, as people, should follow strongly.
Yeah.
Humble yourself before the Lord, and He will exalt you. All He's asking for is a little humility. Basically, just don't boost yourself. Be that kind person, and I think I like Tim McGraw's song. What is it? Humble and Kind.
Yep.
It's so right on the money for everything, because we need to, as people, we're always too all about me.
Yeah.
Where we need to be a lot more like, let's help them, let's help this, let's do more for each other, rather than directing all about ourselves.
Yeah. Or like Ice Cube said, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah. And that's good. That's right, they say. Don't throw stones when you live in a glass house.
Yeah.
We all live in glass houses.
Yeah.
And it's hard because as people we like to feel like we're the reason, we're the cause.
Yeah.
For things to happen positively, and really we're not.
I don't know if I said this on a podcast before. I know I said it. I told someone about it, and I can't remember exactly, off the top of my head what it's called, but it's a real thing for people to think that they're the only one that matters in the universe.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I'll look it up and I'll flash it on the screen really quick for you. But it's this idea, this philosophy that everything that happened before you were born is just like a prequel, a backstory. And then from the moment you're born to the moment you die is the main movie. And anything that happens after that is just like what do they call it? Aftermath, or like a sequel, something like that. And I was watching this video that was explaining it, and I've personally never felt that way. I have never felt that I am the main character of some movie, or like I'm the only, I'm the big one that matters.
Yeah.
Like, I've always been fascinated by driving through town and you see someone filling up their gas tank.
Yeah.
I've always been fascinated. That is someone I will never meet, but they have a whole life.
Yeah.
They're going to go home, probably feed their kids.
Yep.
And maybe they don't have money and they just so happen to find a $20 bill in the parking lot of Walmart. You don't know, and you will never know.
No.
And I thought it was crazy to me that people, and this is kind of what you're talking about, people look at themselves and think, I'm the main character. Everyone else is just
backstory.
Yeah.
And it's not true. Main character is God.
Yeah.
All of us are all the backstories. But obviously, in God's life, we are his main characters.
Yeah.
Each and every one of us are all his children.
Yeah.
Which, if you're a parent, you understand that your children are your world. So we are God's world. But we need to start acting more like his children of a godly nature, rather than his children spawned from Satan, like we do a lot of times in society. We tend to put earthly things first, where earthly things are like, I think of earthly things as like when you're a little kid and you got your little toys.
Yeah.
The only toy for that time. So you got a toddler, you got your little binkies and whatever.
Yeah.
You eventually outgrow them, you get your next set of toys, your little Tonka trucks. You outgrow them, then you get your basketball. Then you outgrow them, then you get your car. Then you outgrow that car, then you get your big truck and your house and so forth and so forth. It's an earthly thing, but all our earthly things are like our toys as grown through life. And that's how we should be treating it. Like with God, we need to put him number one and let our earthly things just be our toys.
Yeah, definitely.
And we need to stop focusing so much on everything about me. We need to start focusing more about us as people.
Yeah. You know what I think about every time you say me?
Toby Keith songs?
No. Remember that, the movie Cat in the Hat? And right before he's about to do the first big song, he goes, me.
Yeah, me. Yeah. I think about Toby Keith. I want to talk about me. I want to talk about me.
Yeah.
Same thing. We need to lose a lot of pride. We need to drop our pride in life. And I think a lot of things that were happening in this society of everything going on, a lot of it has to do with pride.
Yeah.
And we tend to act upon our pride. Like right now, Joe Biden is in office. He's now our president.
Yep.
And and I think it's only because he comes after Trump. He is the first president who's done the most executive orders in his first 5 days in office. All of the presidents only did anywhere from 2 to about 5 executive orders in their first week or 2.
Yeah.
He's done 30 in 5 days. And
most of them were the first day.
Yeah. And all his executive orders is all to undo everything Trump did. And right there, that's a pride issue. He knows that people love Trump, and whatever may have happened throughout the elections, whether you think it's rigged or whatever. Bottom line, his first thing in getting into office was to try to make Trump look like a Trump.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a pride move.
Well, they say history repeats itself.
Yes.
And that reminds me of that I was telling you about it. It reminds me of that Egyptian pharaoh who was a female, and then her stepson or half whatever it was, ended up growing up, and she was the pharaoh for the longest time, and she was his caregiver. So she was the pharaoh for a good 20 years, and then when he finally became old enough and mature enough to be the pharaoh, she ended up dying. I can't remember if he killed her or not, but
I think he killed her.
Somehow she ended up dying, and he kind of erased everything she did. Anything that she did, he was like, "Oh no, I did that."
Yeah, but that's one of the things we're seeing in this country right now. Like you got Biden, that he did that. He doing all this stuff, and some of the executive orders he's overturning is actually costing people their lives. You got a lot of line workers out of jobs. You got it's not exactly all good things, and a lot of this stuff, it could have been sit back and let's wait, let's see it out. Let me review the situation before I start jumping in and start erasing stuff.
Yeah.
Let's review it first and see what's going to be best for the country. Where I feel, because of this way this whole election, and it's not just Joe Biden, there was a lot of pride that went the other way with Donald Trump. He did a lot of prideful things that wasn't exactly the right thing to do, but he did it out of pride because everybody wants to be the number one. And with this election, it got really messy because I don't even know why. I can't even tell you why. Because way too much pride involved, way too many false stories, way too much false news. The last 4 years of Donald Trump's presidency, it's just been shameful to be. I would definitely not want to consider myself ever a Democrat. I'm an independent. I'm not neither Democrat or Republican. But right now, if I were a Democrat, I'd be putting my head in a hole because the stuff they done out of spite, because I think a lot of it their pride and ego was hurt.
Well, and that's the thing, and this even goes beyond politics. Like, there's been multiple times, like, I've seen it in the Army, and I've, seen it multiple places where someone gets their pride hurt.
Oh, yeah.
And so they go and they do all these things, like you said, in spite.
Well, we've seen it with a friend of ours. I'm not going to mention no names, but there's been a deployment happening in the Army, and it was for the Special Forces, so it was a highly done mission. And so one of the head commanders put him in charge and said, you need to coordinate getting people into this thing for the type of work they do to help these people backed up.
Yep.
Well, rather than going through the direct channel to get the people that he wanted, because going through the direct channel, one, he would not have gotten the people he wanted. He would have got whoever they wanted.
Yep.
Two, it would have taken forever, and it would have botched everything up. So he kind of went through that, around that channel, back to each leader of each group, and said, hey, I want this guy, and I want that guy, I want this guy, I want this guy. Everything got approved, and then even got bumped up to the general on the base. And the general said, "Yeah, I'm good with that." And the general said, "Why do you pick these people?" And he said, "Well, these are the best top people in this field that will work together, and this mission will go cleanly without no issues." And this was a highly sensitive mission.
Yeah.
And the general said, "Fine." Well, the commander who is supposed to go through to get these people got wind that he got these people by going around him, pulled a big stinky fit, turned around, went above the general of that base's head, got everything overturned, got it put back, and then gave this guy for this mission a bunch of the worst people for this mission. And it was all about pride because he's hurt because this guy went around his thing.
Yeah.
So because of his pride, he basically put the whole jeopardy mission and the whole mission in jeopardy.
Yeah.
And he possibly, I don't know how the mission turned out, but what I've been told, by the way he did it and put those people in the wrong places, he potentially caused hundreds of lives.
Yeah.
Because he was so pridefully hurt, he would rather have people die than to give them what they need because they didn't go through him.
Right.
And that's the problem, and that's why God, I think, pride is such a big thing. It's not even just about, I don't think God wants to be number one praised, which he does. Don't get me wrong. You can't praise nobody above God. But I think a lot of it is big because he knows that if we put too much pride out there and don't humble ourselves enough, we're not only hurting going against him, we're hurting ourselves, we're hurting our family, we're hurting our friends, we're hurting people around us. So we got to tend to back down and be more humble.
Yeah.
We don't always have to be in control. We can kind of humble ourselves and help other people and understand, hey, you know what? Maybe I wasn't the best person for what he needed.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the way he did it would have been the best for this situation.
Well,
Doesn't mean you're the worst person in the world. It just means that it was quicker and more efficient.
Right, and that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where people think they can do no wrong. Or even if some people realize they can do wrong, but they don't think the consequences are really as severe as reality.
Yep.
But you know, pride is something serious.
Very serious.
And like even before we recorded this episode, I told Dad, I was like, I don't know if I should be doing this episode because I have a lot of pride.
Everybody has pride.
And you know, but there's a difference in pride. There is pride to where, you know.
Well, there's pride of arrogance.
Yeah.
Which pride of arrogance is not a good pride.
Right. Pride of arrogance is kind of just like, hey, I'm the best. No one can beat me. You know, all this and that. Versus, you know, pride of self. I mean,
you can be proud of things that you've done, but you just got to be proud with God.
Exactly. You can be proud that you did these things. Like I'm not saying if you go to the Olympics and you win a gold medal, you can't say, I'm proud of that. You can 100% be proud of that. But just know
that you got help from God
to
accomplish it.
Yeah.
It depends on how you do it. Like, you can be proud of something. Like, I can be proud of, hey, I'm proud of Fifth Dimension the way it's turning out.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I built it or I did it. I'm just saying I'm proud of it.
Right.
Which is a pride of things and a pride of accomplishment. But heaven knows that I couldn't have done any of this without God.
Right. And, you know, we're not trying to say that God does any of the legwork per se, because like let's say I go and I pick up 1,000 pounds deadlift, and I work towards it. So like I start at 150, and I, you know, sooner or later make my way up to 1,000. I'm not saying that God lifted the weight for you, but you know what? He gave you the determination
and the strength.
He gave you the strength, and he gave you the will to do it.
Yeah. And that's a big thing.
Yeah. And, or just like, let's say writing music, for example. Maybe God didn't put the pen to the pad, and maybe, he didn't play that piano melody. But who do you think gave those ideas to you?
Yeah. Who do you think put the words in your head?
Yeah.
Who do you think put the beat to the word? God is not saying that you don't have any hands in it. He's just telling you that you don't have all the hands in it.
Mm-hmm.
That there's a partnership. There's a partnership. Everything you do, you're in it with a partner of some type. Whether it's biblical, you've got God as your partner. God gets you through everything. If it's relationship styles, you got your spouse, you got your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. That's getting you through it. You got your spouse. It's a partnership. In business, you got your partnership. Maybe not partnerships per owner per se, but you got your partnerships between the owner and employees. Because without the employees, the owner is nothing. Without the owner, the employees are jobless. It's a team. It's a partnership. Nothing in life can we say that we do in life. Can we say, I did this and it's all me that made this happen.
Right. And
there's nothing.
And you could you could have a full house in your hand if you had one more king.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do if you don't get that one more king?
Yeah.
You're gonna have nothing.
And you gotta understand that we, as people, we like to think that we did everything, but we forget that there's always the little guy, one, that got you there, that helped get you there.
Yeah.
But two, there's always the big guy that's helped got you there. And that's what God is basically. I think that's why he considers pride such one of the most deadliest sins out there. Because not only do we forget to praise him for helping us, we step on the people that helped us get there. We stepped on the little of people that helped us get there.
Well, and there's a little bit of God in all of us. And I believe one of the things that God put in us that he has himself is not necessarily jealousy, but wanting recognition where it's deserved. Because like one of my biggest things, this isn't my biggest thing, but it's up there where, let's say, me and Dad go ahead and we write a book. And let's say he can't get that last chapter. He needs one more chapter and he just can't figure it out. So I go ahead, I help him, I write that last chapter. And then Dad goes on because he put his name on the book and he got all this recognition and this and that. And, he's getting interviews and people were like, oh, I like that last chapter. He's like, yeah, I don't know, it just came to me.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge person for recognition. If you don't want to acknowledge me, cool, I get that, whatever. But if you're asked about what I did, don't take the credit for it.
Yeah. And it's funny because you talk about that. One of the most humbling things that you'll see is, I'm going to talk about NASCAR racing.
Okay.
Of pro level, even right down to the amateur level.
Yeah.
If you watch the really true good, great race car drivers, when they win the race, there's a bunch of stuff they do when they win. You never once hear a race car driver say, well, no, never say no, okay? I heard a couple of them that were a little too prideful. But most of the race car drivers that win, first thing they say is, thank you to my sponsors. Thank you to McDonald's or whoever is my sponsor. Without them, I would not be here today, because without them, I would not have the money to fund it.
Yeah.
They also turn around and say, I like to thank my pit crew to keep my car running, having my car handling so good and so fast tonight, for me to be able to do what I need to do to drive it to win a circle.
Yeah.
And a real good one is always say, and I thank God kept me safe in the car the whole time out there.
Yeah. Well, you know, back to the sponsor thing. I was watching a video. So I watch a lot of NASCAR videos. I like there's a series called Radioactive.
Yep.
If you've ever heard of it.
I've heard of it.
Where they actually get like inside the radios of the drivers and the pit crew, and you can hear all their conversations.
Yeah.
You know, but one of the things I like to watch is the compilations. You know, sometimes it's the best takeovers or it's the best this, best that, whatever. Well, one of them was the best victory lane speeches, and this was it was a little not very well known drivers. You know what I mean? It wasn't the professionals.
Yeah. This
was about, you know, different tracks, and this one guy, I think his racetrack was in Kansas. He got sponsored by a local restaurant.
Yeah.
And he actually threw so much money into his car that for a week he couldn't feed his family, and that his sponsor gave them free meals for a week.
Nice.
And you know, that in that case, sponsor is God. You know, God is our sponsor. That's the comparison we're trying to make here, is because, you know, yeah, maybe all he did was give you this. You actually did the work. Or maybe, you know, maybe you don't feel he did as much as you did. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's in the car. It doesn't matter, you know, who is turning the wheel. Because, let's be honest, without the pit crew, you wouldn't even get the car fixed. And assuming you did, with no pit crew, you blow a tire out, what are you doing?
Yeah, you're stuck. And on top of it, without the sponsorships, you ain't gonna have the money to fund it.
Exactly. God, the way I like to look at it is, we are the car and the driver. People and our friends and our family are our pit crew. And God is our sponsor.
Yeah.
God gives us everything we need to go ahead and get to the finish line coming first. Our pit crew is our support.
Yep.
If we need anything, if we break down, or if we, you know, just need some more gas, whatever the situation is, your pit crew's there to help you and try to get you back in first place in time.
Yep. And
you being the driver, the car, you know, it's pretty obvious, but
yeah, I like that analogy. That actually goes good together.
Yeah.
Kind of point that we need to get at is, as society goes on, our pride takes over more and more of our lives. I noticed it a lot more as life goes on. I mean, I remember back in the 80s, there wasn't nearly as much pride back in the 80s. People tended to a lot more acknowledge other people, and a lot of people didn't want to be in the spotlight as the one who did this, you know? They kind of say, no, it wasn't just me, no, it wasn't me, it was this. Where nowadays, everybody, even the people who did the very little list, is jumping out, yeah, I did that.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think the reasoning for that is because of one major thing, and it's been a good thing to society and a bad thing to society, which is the internet.
Yep.
Because think about it. Before the internet existed, it was hard for people to get famous.
Yeah.
You know, now, if I really, truly wanted to, I could literally write one of the biggest things is there's a song on TikTok. I don't know if it's famous anymore or whatever, but literally the whole song is I'm in the house bored and I'm in the house bored. I'm bored in the house and I'm in the house bored. And it just goes on for minutes. And it's pretty much that same thing. I'm sure every time someone uses that person makes money.
Yep.
You know, all you have to do is come up with one thing, or even like the the Catch Me Outside girl.
Yeah.
She said something once.
And now it's a worldwide
Yeah.
epidemic.
Now she makes music. She's in movies. You know, you just have to be at the right place at the right time. But, I mean, I guess not even really. You just have to have the right thing.
Yeah.
You know? And I remember, speaking of Catch Me Outside girl, I remember watching, I told you I like the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah.
He had Dr. Phil on one time, and Joe Rogan asked him about that. And Dr. Phil, he was just like, I don't even understand what happened. That was not a main point in the interview. He says, if you go and watch the actual whole episode, that's like a 2-second clip where she threw everyone off guard and she was talking to someone in the audience. I didn't even acknowledge it. I was focused on something else. Nobody in my production crew caught it. It was just something that someone caught on their phone and got lucky.
Yep.
And, you know, now she's sponsored by Gucci.
Yep.
Now, you know, and she was 14 at the time she said that.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. And, you know, maybe she didn't have the best path to fame as far as, you know, the way she was acting and, you know, all that. Maybe she isn't the best role model to rise to fame, but at the end of the day, God still gave her that fame.
Yeah. And you got to think about it. God did that.
Yeah.
Because it was a luck of the draw, and there is no such thing as luck. That was God.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you she gave no credit to God for that.
Well, and one thing I just want to mention real quick is, you know, like we're saying, it's super easy to get famous on, you know, on the internet.
Yeah.
It's not hard at all. You just have to have one quality that someone relates to. And I promise you, everyone out there has multiple qualities that someone relates to.
Yep.
It's just, if you do ever become big, if you ever do get a little 15 minutes of fame or whatever, remember that God gave it to you, and He gave it to you for a reason.
And remember this, too, on top of it. Whatever God giveth, God can take it.
Yeah.
So...
Just like Mom used to say all the time, I brought you in this world, I can take you out.
Exactly. Here's the thing is, when you get too prideful, like King
Nebuchadnezzar,
he got too prideful, and he thought himself above God. He didn't give God any credit. God took it all away from him, and actually made him live like an animal.
Yeah.
He can do that with each and every one of us now.
Oh, yeah.
If he wants to, all us prideful people that want to be prideful over him, he can come down and he can make us all living like animals again.
Oh, you know, God can totally ruin your world or end your life any instant He wants.
Yep.
You know.
In this day and age, like you talk about with the internet and electronics, it's not hard for God to ruin our world.
No.
All He has to do is make one good lightning storm go across the world and strike out every electrical plant out there and put us in total darkness.
You know those,
and you're gonna ruin the world.
You know those ads you'll be watching YouTube or something, and an ad will pop up and it'll say, "Oh, you need to prepare for this. We have a 15-step plan, blah blah blah." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Pay
$20 and you can own it and all this. Well, when I was 15, I was up later than I should have been. I think I was watching. I was either scrolling through Facebook, watching YouTube, something like that. There was a video that popped up and it said, "Are you a Christian? Every good Christian should be preparing for this," and blah blah blah. Well, I was intrigued. I didn't really believe it too much, you know, because a lot of those are scams and you know, stuff like that. But I was watching it and it was it's like, click this link and get transported to a video that's only 20 minutes long and it'll give you everything you need. Blah blah. I was like, you got my attention. So I clicked the video and I'm watching the video and it was telling about how God gave a message that the Muslims were going to kill off all the Christians and all of America and this and that, and I was sitting there and I was kind of like, wow, that's actually a scary thought. You know, the thought of that being a possibility. And I'm the type of person where I believe everything happens for a reason.
Yep.
And so I was sitting there, I was like, God showed me this for a reason. So I'm sitting there, I'm double thinking it, whatever, and it gave the whole attack plan and everything. It was like they're gonna launch an EKG over America, and they have EKGs big enough to take out every major city and every surrounding city in America, and this and that. And I was sitting there, I was like, we're gonna have no electronics. That's gonna send everyone crazy, and we gotta stock up on food, and we gotta do this and do that. And I actually, in my notes, if I had one of my old phones, I have a whole thing. I was like, all right, this is the battle plan. We're gonna go here. This is where we're gonna stay safe. We need this, this, and this. And I didn't end up spending any money on it because after the video, they wanted you to buy canned tuna and weapons and all this type of stuff. But you know, the internet now in that situation, if that was true and there was an EKG that got sent out on America, and we literally had to transfer back to the olden days, what would you do?
America would be in big trouble.
You know,
most countries would be in big trouble because we rely on electronics so much. Because you figure if we lose electronics or electricity, no more cell phones, no more calling across the country.
Yeah.
No more cars. You're not gonna be driving cars anywhere because never guess what? Electronics pumps your gas into your car.
Yeah.
People always say, like I hear people, oh, I still have my car, so I could do that. No, you're only gonna have your car till you run out of gas because you need electricity to run the gas pump to put gas into your car.
And hopefully you don't own a Tesla.
Yeah. So anything you do is gonna be done. So you're gonna be back to the old days where it's gonna be riding horse and buggies and camels and mules and whatever means you're gonna be. Your house, you're gonna have to light a fire to heat your house and have light.
But that's the thing is nowadays with the internet, it gives us so many opportunities, but it's all from God. So every day you wake up and you're able to check your phone, be thankful for God.
Yep.
Heck, every time you wake up and breathe, be thankful for God.
God gave us everything. And tomorrow is never promised.
No.
So you should always thank God for waking up. And you should always thank God for the day you had when you go to bed. Because you was able to make it through the day. And God got you through the day. Whether it's a good day, bad day, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Thankful to God you made it through it.
Yeah, and I've said it multiple times. Every night before I go to sleep, I pray and I just thank God for the day and everything. But that's something I need to get better on. Praying in the morning.
And you gotta pray in the morning. Yeah, I do that every morning. Thank you, God, for another day. Because there's people who had plans for that same day, and they did not wake up.
Yeah.
So, pride can be somewhat of a good thing depending on how you use it. Like we talked about it. If you're prideful into something that you built and you include God in the build, it's a good thing. Using pride as being proud of something, that's a good thing. Or pride in accomplishment, that's a good thing. Pride in a fact of an egotistical thing to say that you and you alone did it is a deadly, deadly sin. Yeah. We always talk about what's the most deadliest sin out there of all the sins of sins.
Yeah. One of the most unforgivable.
A lot of theologians, a lot of Christians feel that pride is the deadliest sin. That is one sin that God will keep you out of heaven for, is if you pride yourself more than Him.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, God wants to be the number one praise.
Yeah.
So, I guess with that, what would you say you want your comment section to be?
one thing I want to know, I guess I'm gonna have a two-part, but one, this will be the third episode where we had a worship song in the beginning of the episode. I want to know you guys' thoughts. I want to know how you feel. I know Dad came to me and was saying I want it to be more kind of, you know, how you walk into church and they start the worship music.
I feel we need the worship. Worship is what sets the
Yeah,
mood.
that's another thing. Yeah, and which I agreed, and so we've been coming up with songs and everything. I want to know what you guys think of the green screen and the verses popping up and all, you know, everything. But I think for this episode, based on this episode, I want to know truly, how prideful are you? Is that something you need to work on?
That's good. Good one.
Did I take yours?
No. I don't really have one. I'm making one up. I'm gonna go with a two-part too.
Okay.
One is I want to know from my fans and people. Actually, a couple different questions. One, do you like it better that we're doing video, or do you like it better when it's just the audio? For one.
I wanna piggyback on that real quick too. Would you like us to go to more platforms, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts? There's a few other podcast places out there, but would that be something you're interested in, or would you like to keep YouTube and that's it?
And my second part of my first part, second question of the first part, do you think the podcasts are too long? Should we shorten it up a little bit? Should we refine it down to a little bit more of a refined, shorter version, or do you like it how we keep it? We try to keep it right around an hour because we want to get as much truthful information out there. Yeah, sometimes we do ramble off. But like we said, with this podcast, nothing's pre-practiced.
Oh.
Nothing's pre-written. Like, we make it a point that we don't pre-write our thing. Like, you go to church sermon, they have that sermon is already pre-written before they get on stage. It is days, it's been pre-written, it's pre-read,
they have it memorized,
everything was pre-done before they got there. They have the verses all ready to go. They have everything pre-organized. And one thing that with this podcast, I didn't do that. I could do that, but I haven't been doing that because I want it raw. I want you to feel it raw. I want you to feel it how we feel it. And yeah, we make mistakes. That's part of life. We're human. But we're giving you raw information.
Yeah, there's multiple times in that we've been recording the podcast, and it was literally me going up to Dad while Dad was in his office. All right, you ready to record? Yeah. What's the topic? I thought you had one.
Yeah.
And so we just take 10 minutes, figure out a topic, then be like, all right, let's record. You got your verse? And, you know.
We do a lot of stuff last minute, but that's because we want to keep it raw. We want to keep it honest. We want to keep it live. When we film do our podcast and do the recording, it's what we're feeling at that time.
Yeah.
It's not what we were feeling last week. It's what we're feeling right now when we're recording.
Yeah.
What we feel America needs and Christians need to hear, and what people need to hear about God.
Yeah, and you know, I truly think that God's guiding us in this, you know, the podcast adventure.
God is 100% here.
Because
taking us.
There's been multiple. I'm the type of person where I look back on things and I'm like, oh, I wish I could have done that. I wish I could have said that. I have never once felt that about the podcast.
Yeah.
I can honestly say every time I record a podcast, and like we said, it's raw, off the top of our head. There's never been a time where I was like, ooh, that would have been good. I honestly feel like I'm able to get my point across and get everything. Yeah. The message that I want to send to you guys, I honestly feel like you get it right off the bat.
And the only time it is pre-planned a little bit is if we have a guest speaker.
Yeah.
But it's not really pre-planned because what we do is, like, if we find a guest speaker, we'll say, hey, you want to be on our podcast? And they said, yeah. When do you want to be on? And we'll set up a time when they want to be on the week that they want to thing. and let them make up the topic.
Yeah, what topic
What
do
topic
you like to
do
speak
you
on?
want to speak of? What's comfortable with you? And that's the only thing that's kind of pre-planned. But that's only because it's not like I could call somebody at 5 minutes before recording and say, hey, I know you're 200 miles away, but get your butt over here. I want you on a podcast.
Yeah.
We got to kind of plan around their schedule, too. My actual question now is about pride. What do you feel that we can do better as humans to control our pride?
Ooh.
I want to know what you feel we can do better. And your info on that.
That's a good one.
I guess with that, I guess you all have a good week.